So the third class for Azon Overhaul is all about Amazon research. This Amazon research goes through a number of different steps, just like we did with the previous lesson where we went through all of our informational content. Today we are going to be going through all of our product content. This will also include the actual ads that we promote on our website. So the whole point here with this portion of the research is to ensure that the existing ads and the existing product pages on your site, to ensure that they are of high quality, and to also make sure that the products that you're promoting are still viable to promote. These types of things can lead you into deciding whether or not you should be expanding particular pages of your website or not. We will also then go beyond our existing site and explore new Amazon products. This is especially important if it has been a while since you originally created your website. Some of the original products that you select to promote may no longer be viable products to be promoting. So you may find cases where you need to replace products, or you may find completely new products that you want to add to your website. And then the very last piece of tonight's class is going to be covering websites beyond Amazon. I'm talking about using affiliate networks other than Amazon to find products that make a good fit for your niche. You don't always want to step outside of Amazon. That's something we'll be discussing fairly heavily during that portion of tonight's class. But there are some cases where it is worthwhile to use something alongside of Amazon, and we're going to be discussing that a little bit later and how to figure out whether or not you should actually do something like that with your own website. So to start with, we're going to talk about Amazon product stats. The whole idea here is to look into the information that Amazon provides us and figure out what ads and what products are performing as they should be, and therefore they should be left alone, and also what products are not performing quite like we would want them to, and therefore those products we would want to either revise in some way or potentially replace them with something else. So to start with, what I recommend to do is to first come up with a list of products. This list of products should come from your actual website, and it should contain all of the actual products and or product pages that you will have on your existing site. So for my site, I have a Pins On page, I have a Primaloft page, and a Pyrenees page. These are subpages of my Pins On page. Then I have an IKEA page, and I have a Pacific Coast page. Now on these pages, I promote slightly different products. On the Pins On pages, these are pretty straightforward. I'm promoting on the Primaloft page, I'm promoting the Primaloft comforter. On the Pyrenees page, I'm promoting the Pyrenees comforter. However, on my IKEA page, I'm actually promoting the My Saran comforter. However, I'm promoting 4 different versions of this comforter. There's 2 different sizes, and then there are 2 different warmth rates that I promote for this. So I do want to know this extended information. And finally, with my Pacific Coast page, I am again promoting a selection from this particular brand. Now, these don't seem to have straightforward names necessarily like the other ones did. So I can come back to this page a little later to refer to these specific products. If it's something that's a little complicated to simply list out, copying and pasting each of these names, for example, over to my list might not have a lot of meaning to it because some of them are kings, some of them are queens, some of them are different models beyond that. So I kind of have a bit of a mix-up on my Pacific Coast page. So I'm going to look a little deeper into this page before I actually take the time to list out those products, because I may end up changing those around a little. So I have my list of basic products that I'm promoting and or the brands that I'm going after here. So this is going to start off my research, and then I will be building on this list as I go this evening. Now for my particular site, you're likely going to notice that tonight I'm going to be doing a lot more hands-on work than I was doing in the previous class. The reason for that is that this is really the primary area that I know already that my website needs some overhaul in. So this is really where I have found my research to lead me to say, yes, changes are needed in this area of your site. So that is why I am making a much more detailed research list of information in this particular class than I was the previous one. For your site, you may not know ahead of time what is wrong and what isn't. So like I am doing in tonight's class, as far as my note-taking and stuff like that, this is really what I would encourage you to be doing with your own research, not just for this class, but this is also what you should have done with the previous class as well. This way, when we get to the planning phase, we can look back at all this information and know exactly what we want to be changing, what additions we want to be making, and we can make a game plan for putting all that into action. So next up, I'm going to go on to look up my ad stats. Ultimately, out of these ad stats, I want to know 3 different things. I want to know what products are selling. I want to know what products are getting traffic but are not really converting much of that traffic into sales. This could be low sales on that product, or it could be 0 sales on that product. And then finally, I want to know what I am selling that is directly related to my niche that I am not promoting. And you might think, well, how could you possibly be selling something you're not promoting? People can buy off of your affiliate link. Let's say they click over to view one of my IKEA comforters and they decide it's not right for them, but maybe they continue on the Amazon site and find a different comforter that they do want to buy, and so they buy that instead. These stats in my Amazon account can lead me to find this type of stuff, and this is really prime information for you to have for your overhaul research, because it's going to lead you to figure out what needs to be changed, what needs to be left alone, and potentially even where additions need to be made to your site. So with that said, I'm going to be flipping into my account here for this particular website. Now, I want to give a little bit of a backstory here real quick, because this is not something that I have done except for maybe a couple of times over the 6 years plus that I've been teaching people Amazon affiliate marketing. I got started in 2010 teaching people my tactics for building Amazon websites. I was already building my own websites before that point, and I decided to share one of my sites that I had built on the Warrior Forum. And that kind of led into people wanting to know how I built my site, and that snowballed into me then training people. Well, something that I learned the hard way that first time around was that whenever I share something very publicly on a forum or through training classes such as this one, I have found that people readily look at the information that is available, the websites that I offer up to them to look at, the products that I'm promoting, the keywords that I'm trying to target, all those types of things. And I get heavily targeted as a result. I didn't want to risk my pre-existing websites that I had spent so many years building up. And so I essentially started creating things again from scratch. That way I could show things to people from a realistic perspective, especially, to where they're not going to have tons of websites built up already. Maybe they only have this one first Amazon site that they've built. And they might want to know, what can you really make off of that type of a website, for example. And so I got the idea back in, I think it was 2011. Yes, 2011 here. I started teaching people in 2010. Well, I got the idea in 2011 to create a brand new account. And you may not have noticed this here. It says, "Hi, Sarah." I actually have this separate account under my wife's name. So that way I can have legally two separate Amazon affiliate accounts. And I use one for my pre-existing business, and I use the other one for any websites such as this one that I've been showing you guys that I publicly share with my own customers. And so with that said, this entire affiliate account is just based on this one website and its performance. So I can go into my account and easily share with you guys the information from this particular website and not have to worry about my pre-existing properties being shared and that stuff getting targeted and copied and so on and so forth. With that said though, even the site that I do share with you guys, the Down Comforter site that I've been talking about in this particular class, there's still a lot of great information here. This is still a real Amazon website. This site gets monthly traffic and has been making money for a couple of years now, even though I really haven't done much to it. In the last year, I don't think I changed anything at all on this site. And it just sat there completely on autopilot for me and put about 500 bucks worth of Amazon commissions in my pocket. However, going through these stats a little closer, I realized that I'm missing out on a lot of opportunities from things that are going on in the marketplace now with this industry that were not taking place a couple years ago when I originally created this website. So I want to dive into my affiliate account here for this particular website and show you how to come up with your stats for each of the products that you promote, and more importantly, what to actually do with this information, how to analyze it and figure out what your good products are, what your bad products are, where changes might be in order. So with that said, the main things that I am on the lookout for here are down comforters from these three particular brands. Penzon, the Primaloft in the Pyrenees, the IKEA Myceron, and one of a number of Pacific Coast down comforters. Even though I'm only promoting those 5 particular products on this site, when I go through all of the information here, you can see that I've actually referred sales on quite a wide variety of different kinds of products. Things that are well outside of the down comforter niche even. The reason for this is, as I described to you before, when people click through a product of yours and go to the Amazon site, if they end up buying something else instead of your product or along with the product that you're promoting, you get credit for that sale as well. So there's all these random products that are mixed into all of this. So you do have to sort through all of this junk, essentially, to find the things that are really important for you. You're not only looking for those original products that you are promoting, like for example here, I can see one of my IKEA Myceron links. However, I do have 4 of those that I am promoting on my site. So essentially what I'm looking to do here is take the information that I find up top and transfer it down to my list. So I can say this is the King Warmth Rate 2. I have 349 clicks and 1 total sale. Now this is not a very good conversion rate. You should ideally be seeing at least 1% when you are looking through your own stats. If you're seeing less than 1%, but there are still some sales taking place, it can be a good reason to look into that a little closer, to figure out why are you sending a lot of clicks to this product, but you're not getting a lot of sales on it. Now we'll be exploring this more in detail as this class goes on, but in particular, this IKEA Myceron is one of the major issues with this particular website. I'm driving quite a bit of traffic to these Amazon product links, but ultimately I'm not getting a lot of sales off of it. However, shortly after I first created this website, this product was converting much, much better than it currently is. So I want to explore why. What has happened over the last couple of years with this website or with this particular product that is causing it to not convert for me anymore? And what can I do about it? That's the ultimate goal of all of this. So now, beyond finding the products that you are promoting, I also mentioned that you want to find a couple of other situations where you want to find the products that are getting clicks, but either low sales or zero sales. This particular product, for example, would fall into the low sale category. But how do you find out about a product that is not getting any sales at all? To find that information out, you actually want to go all the way down to the bottom here where it says View Items with No Orders. This is going to give you a listing of all the products that have had clicks but have not converted any orders. So when you take your list here and you refer back to this particular page, you can see pretty straightforward some of my top products here that are not getting sales are indeed some of these products that I'm promoting. So once again, this is a great indication that I should be taking a look closer at these. So I can say the twin comforters here, top one is warmth rate 2. This twin is also the queen size. The warmth rate 2, I've got 148 clicks. The warmth rate 4, I've got 67 clicks. The king, no, I'm sorry, this is just the queen. The queen warmth rate 4 has 404 clicks, but no sales. Now, you can try to go ahead and dive into these products if you really want to at this point. For example, I could go ahead and just jump over to the Amazon website and look at this product and see if there's a blatant reason why I'm not getting any sales. And by flipping to this page, it is pretty obvious, currently unavailable. So the item is simply not in stock. The question is, when was it in stock last? And is there any kind of a decent probability of it coming back? I can look through my stats on Amazon to try to figure this out. When was the last time that I did refer a sale on this product? However, if I had never referred a sale on it, another thing that I can do is to go and look at the product page itself and to look at the customer reviews. If you look in the right-hand sidebar at the most recent reviews, you can see the time frame that they were published in between 13 and 16 months ago for this particular product. So if the most recent review was only 13 months ago, that's not looking too hot. It's possible this product may have been out of stock for roughly the last year. With that said, it's a pretty good indication that I might need to do something about this. I might need to completely remove this product from my site, or I may need to see if there's another source for this particular product. So I'm just simply going to mark down that this one has been unavailable for 13 months. This way, when I'm going back through my site, I can easily examine all these products on an individual basis and try to explore what I could do about replacing it. So this should be fairly straightforward now as far as what you should be doing with the stats, going through collecting the information as far as the number of clicks and the number of sales that you're getting on each of the products that you're promoting. Beyond that, though, I would also recommend to browse through each of these products and try to find anything that you have referred sales on, but you're not directly promoting that product. What I mean by directly related to it, though, is with a down comforter, for example, you have tons of closely related products. We have things like sheets that I have sold, mattress pads, pillows, duvets. The list kind of goes on and on. However, even though those things are kind of related to a down comforter, I have to consider if I were to start promoting some of those products, would I be diluting the niche that my website is really about? My website is centered around down comforters. So if I stretch outside of down comforters, I run that possibility of potentially destroying the current search rankings that I do have on the site. So I'm looking more for the exact same kind of product that I promote, but other cases of it where I'm not promoting that exact product. Now this one here, for example, at first it might look like it's a down alternative comforter. However, I believe this is just a duvet insert. Maybe it just comes with a duvet as well. This actually does appear to be a full-fledged down comforter, so this could potentially be something that I might think about adding. Now, while I just had one random sale on this particular product, if I'm not really directly promoting it, it's still a good indication that it's worth looking into more. I should look up whether there's some keyword traffic centered around that particular product. I should look into whether or not the product is popular on Amazon in general. Things of that nature could lead me to later make the decision whether or not to add that product into my site. So I'm not deciding right now, yes, I'm definitely going to add this product into my site. I'm simply making a note of it to look into this a little further during my research. So continue on through all of the Amazon stat information that you have available to you, trying to find the products that are selling so you know to leave them alone, to find the products that are getting clicks but they're getting low or no sales on them, and then finally, what products are you selling that you are not actually promoting? With this information in hand, then, you can continue on with the research. And this is going to now lead us onto our actual website to view the product pages that we have there, to look at the content that we have available, to look at the ads that we have, and then finally we're going to go and look at some of the Google stats for this information as well. So now when I go to my live site, I'll start with the IKEA page here, because this one I definitely know is going to need some adjustments because at least one of these products I already know is no longer available. That would be this one down here, the Queen Warmth Rate 4. So now my question is this the case with all of these products, or is it just that one particular size and variety? I'm also seeing the same here with the King for that warmth rate, and also with the warmth rate 2 King, and I'm guessing I'm going to see the same here. Nope, I do have one. That's not promising looking. One used down comforter. I don't know about you, but I personally would not want to buy a used down comforter. And would imagine that this, while it may possibly be able to sell, it's still not looking very hopeful. Now I can look down at the recent reviews for these other varieties of this particular product to try to find how recent this may have last been purchased. Now for this one, I don't see a lot of reviews. It's not showing the most recent, but that's just because there aren't many reviews. So I just have to look at the dates over here. My most recent was a little over a year ago, so about 13 months once again on that product. I do see some back around this past summer for this particular one, but still that's not very promising. This one's showing about 8 months ago. So I'm still kind of seeing the same type of thing going on. So I just want to make myself a big note here that my IKEA comforters are no longer available, it seems. So I can explore this more in depth to figure out why they're not available. Is there anywhere that I can still promote these products? And if there is not, is there something that I can replace it with? Obviously, I'm driving a lot of clicks on these ads. And if I could be converting 300 or 400 clicks on each of these ads into sales at, say, 1 to 3% conversion rates, that's a pretty significant amount of sales just off of this one page alone that I could be losing out on. Now, the other thing that I want to be focusing on, besides the actual products that I have on the page, is my content. Now, I happen to know for this particular page, for example, that my content's pretty good. I have really great search rankings on this particular page. It brings in traffic from tons of different keywords. And so I'm not super concerned about the quality of it, the depth of that content, but I still wanted to make sure to focus on talking about this for just a minute, because this could easily be something that could apply to your website. Now, one of the most common things that I see on Amazon affiliate sites out there is the automated product content, where you use some kind of plugin or software and it creates a page for you for the Amazon product, and it's using this as the title, and it's using the information here and also down in the product description here. It'll take all of that text content and just put it on your own website instead. and create a full-blown product page with an advertisement on it. While it can be really fast and easy to use software like that to get your site set up, the content that comes off of it can be counterproductive to help you get really good search rankings, simply because there's nothing on your site to set it apart from everyone else that's promoting that product. So I do recommend, if you are using that automated product content and maybe you're not getting a lot of traffic to these particular product pages, consider revising or maybe even completely wiping out that automated content to replace it with in-depth, unique content. Now, the amount of content that you actually put on a page is a little subjective. The general rule that I can give you, though, is the more the merrier. At a bare minimum, I recommend about 500 words for a page. However, going up to 1,000 words or even beyond that can do wonders for search rankings. If you find yourself, say, stuck on page number 2 or page number 3 of the search rankings, and you only have a 500 or a 600 word article, try expanding that to 1,000 or even 1,500 words and see what it does to your search ranking after a couple of weeks have passed. For my particular page, I definitely have in-depth content. There's definitely a lot more than 500 words. I already know ahead of time that I have great search rankings on this page. So that's not something that I have to worry about too much. However, I am going to be researching more into this particular page to see what else I might be able to do with it, especially related to keyword traffic, something we'll be moving on to talking about here before too much longer. Now, as far as the product information that you provide on your websites, you have general product information, things like features and stats of the product. I like including this information on my websites, even though this information may come directly off of the Amazon website. For example, all the product detail information that's found down here at the bottom, this information all comes directly off of the Amazon website. But I've rehashed this information essentially in my own words. I've redisplayed it in a different design on my website. So it's still not exactly the same, but I still retain a lot of these great words that I may not have ordinarily talked about. Things like warmth rate and filling weight and dimensions, care instructions. All of these things might be keywords that people search for. Even if they're not keywords that people search for, though, they are still relational words for my overall topic. When you look at IKEA down comforters, things like dimensions and filling weight and warmth rate are considered semantic words. Google definitely will find these other types of phrases on at least some of the websites out there that are covering this particular topic. So I do find this information to be important. However, a lot of times I won't feature the information. I might shove it all the way down to the bottom of the page and put my more unique, useful content where I'm talking to my reader as though they were a friend of mine, instead of trying to sell the product to them, essentially. It creates a more friendly vibe for people reading your site. It also provides them with information that is useful to them that can help them to figure out what they actually do want to buy. So make sure you have this information on your product pages. But if it is coming directly off of the Amazon website, try to change it up a little bit. Put it into your own words, change the way that this information is displayed, the order that it's displayed in. All these types of adjustments can really help you out with search engine rankings in the long run. Now, when it comes to figuring out how to expand your content, let's say you look at your page and you're like, okay, I have a pretty basic article here. It just has a vague summary of this product and then an ad for it, and that's about it. If you don't already know a lot about the product ahead of time, it can be a little difficult or frustrating to try to figure out what you should actually write about for that product. One of the things that I like to do, especially because I will commonly write about products that I've never used before or products that I have no personal knowledge of, or maybe even no personal interest in those products, I'll look at the features of those products and I'll look at the different ways that those products can be used. And then I can use each of those different things, a feature or a use for a product, as a subtitle in my content. And then I can write out a couple of sentences or paragraphs to talk about that particular feature or that particular use. Doing something like this not only lets you write a lot more content about a product than you may ordinarily be able to come up with, but it helps you hit on all of these different semantic words, all these different relational words to your main topic that ultimately Google is looking for when it's trying to decide which site is going to rank the best. The more of those highly relational words you have contained within your content, the better off you're going to be in the search rankings. And basing your content off of talking about different features or different ways that a product could be used is a great way to casually include a lot of those different words. You might not even realize that you're doing it while you're writing, but a lot of those different features and uses can even tie back to keyword phrases that people search for. So it can even help you to not only get a better ranking for your main keyword phrase, but to get all of these other additional rankings on one particular page as well. Beyond the content of your page, you want to look at the ads, and specifically you want to look at where you have placed your ads on the page and whether or not those ads are actually getting a decent number of people clicking on them compared to the people that are viewing your page. Now on my page here, I actually have the ads, what you would consider below the fold. You do have to scroll down a full page length or so to really be able to put these ads on your page full screen. So I can then go look back at my stats and see whether this has affected my click-through rate or not. Ultimately, I already know on these products, though, that the problem is that they're not available anymore. I am generating clicks on them, but I could still go back and look at what kind of a click-through rate I was achieving on them to figure out whether they were performing okay down here or whether they would be better off a little further up the page. This way, even if I don't keep these ads on this page, if I replace it with something else, I still have some actual stats that I can go on to help me figure out where the best position for that ad may be on my page. Now, to figure out your click-through rate. You do need the information that you got from Amazon before, where you found the actual number of clicks that a product was getting. However, your click-through rate is also based on the number of people that have actually visited this page. So to get that information, you would need to go over to Google Analytics. I like to use behavior and site content and all pages. This gives me a listing of the top pages that are on my site, the number of page views that they have had, both total and unique, and so that I can then compare these numbers to the number of clicks that I have received. However, make sure you are still working with the same time frame here. On analytics, by default, I'm just looking at the most recent month. I told you guys in previous weeks that I had some issues with this site getting hacked and actually completely shut it down for a while I was getting all those issues resolved. And so you can see how I literally had zero traffic on this site for a little while because of that issue. And now that I have started work on it, I'm starting to get the site revived. I've actually had close to 150 page views a couple of days over the last week or so. However, this time frame is not the same time frame that I was looking at on the Amazon website when I was checking out stats there. So I need to make sure that my time frames match up. I was actually looking at a full year's worth. So I'm going to look at my stats here for the same thing. So now I can see that my IKEA page, once again, is my most popular page on this particular website. That alone is a critical indication that this particular change should be among the most important of all the changes that I could make on this site with this particular overhaul. Because if this is my most popular page and the products are unavailable, then all this traffic essentially goes to waste. I might end up getting some sales off of this traffic indirectly, where they click over to the Amazon website and they see that the product's not available anymore, and then maybe that some of them go on to purchase an additional product. But a lot of it is going to end up being wasted traffic. So with that said, I want to look at the number of people that have viewed that page compared with the number of clicks that I have received. Now, depending on what your product pages are really like, this click-through rate can kind of vary from one page to the next. There is no set, you should have a click-through rate of at least this number. Because on my page, for example, I have 4 ads on that page. If I only had 1 ad on that page, it would definitely get a considerably higher click-through rate, maybe even 4 times higher of a click-through rate than these 4 ads separately would get. So make sure you're considering things like that when you're looking at your own stats and figuring out whether or not it's actually getting a lot of clicks or not on it. So I like to focus on my unique page views that I receive to a page. Ultimately, you could technically use either one of these two numbers. You can see one is a lot higher than the other, so you will get better stats by looking at the lower number. But I consider this to be a more realistic picture because somebody can view a page on my website multiple times and it inflates this number of page views here, whereas this is actually the number of people that have come through. Now, sure, it is possible for somebody to then click on an ad of mine multiple times and to possibly generate multiple clicks on my Amazon stats. However, I think more people view a page multiple times than do click on an advertisement multiple times. As long as you're using the same column of numbers, though, throughout all of your research that you're doing, you will at least maintain some kind of a standard or consistency there. So I'm going to put on my IKEA page here, I'm going to put 12,260 uniques. So now this number, I can look at this number in comparison with these click numbers that I have and figure out what my click-through ratio is going to be. Now to figure out the click-through ratio, pull up a calculator so you guys can see this. What I'm going to do is take the number of ad clicks. So we'll start with the highest one here. Take 404, and then we're going to divide this by the number of page views that we get. Now this gives us a big decimal. If you want to see this in easy to understand percentage amount though, I recommend multiplying it by 100. And so this is your click-through rate percentage, 3.925%. So that tells me that for this particular product, for every person that viewed my page, 3.295% of them clicked through on this particular ad. So when I look at all of these combined, 404 plus 349 plus 148 plus 67, if I divide this by 12,260 and multiply by 100, this gives me the click-through rate for my entire page, 7.895%. So for every person I have viewing my page, close to 8% of those people end up clicking on one of my Amazon ads. That's not really all that bad. I've had a lot of sites that have had much lower click-through rates than that and have performed quite well, actually. So I don't necessarily think that my ad placement is anything bad. If you're seeing click-through rates down around 1%, 2%, or even less than that, it would certainly be an indication to take a look a little closer and try to figure out why your click-through rate might be that low. Certain things on your advertisements can actually affect how many people end up clicking on them. The two most important things out of everything that you might have on your advertisements that could affect your click-through rate, in my opinion, are the sale price and a buy now button. There's not necessarily anything wrong with having a price or a buy now button, or even both, on one of your Amazon ads. In fact, I have them on quite a few of my ads as well. But the thing to consider if you do have that information on your advertisements, consider that it might be lowering your click-through rate. If I were to remove the prices and if they were there, the buy now buttons from these ads, I guarantee this 7.895% would increase. More people would be inclined to click on these ads if it didn't have a price on them. This instantly tells people that this is something to buy, that this is most likely going to be an advertisement at that. So there are a certain percentage of people that when they blatantly see an ad, they're going to avoid it on purpose. That is your lowered click-through rate that you get as a result. However, it's important to understand, I'm not saying to remove the price and the buy now button if you do have them, but be aware of them being there and that it might be affecting your click-through rate as a result. Now, the reason why I don't say to remove those things to get a higher click-through rate is because I'm actually a big fan of pre-selling. I know that when somebody clicks on this ad, when they see that there's a price here, they already have it in their mind before they click on this ad that this could be an ad, that they might be directed to a page that's going to try to sell them something. That mental preparation ahead of time causes better results once somebody is then on the Amazon page for that particular product. Simply because they don't land here and get shocked by it, saying, oh wait, I didn't know I was going to buy a product. I was just trying to look at a little more information or something to find out more about this particular product. So some of the people will automatically close that Amazon page down if they go there and they did not expect to be there. So when you have the price in your ad, it might lower your click-through rate, but it could increase your conversion rate over on the Amazon website. Your conversion rate being the number of sales you have compared to the number of people that are actually clicking on the ad. Now, when you have the Buy Now button, this can increase what I just talked about even more so, where you have lower click-through rates but higher conversion rates. Because again, you're making it obvious that you have an ad on your site. So before you immediately say, okay, I have horrible click-through rates on this page and I need to do something about my ads, consider whether or not you are lowering your click-through rates with prices or buy now buttons on there. And then also look at whether you're getting sales on that product. You might notice that you have really good stats on the Amazon site if something like that were to be the case. Now, beyond the actual stats for each of your pages and trying to figure out click-through rate, whether or not you may need to change where your ad is placed, the other thing I like to look at is how traffic is actually navigating its way through my website. For this, I use the behavior flow. I go to behavior and behavior flow in Google Analytics. And this is going to tell me where people enter my website and then how they move through my website. So with that said, I want to look at this information and I want to then compare it with what I have going on over here and also make some notes about what I have going on over here. What you're ultimately looking for is you want to make sure traffic is moving from the page that they land on your website down to a page that's actually going to help you make some money. So if you have informational content on your site and a lot of your traffic enters through those informational pages, it is vital that that traffic is proceeding on from there and making it to, say, a product page after that. So you actually have the potential to convert some of that traffic into a sale. Ultimately, if the traffic is never on a page with one of your ads, then you ultimately don't have a potential to make a sale there. Knowing where traffic hangs up on your website, where they drop off at, can immediately point you to some places where you might say, okay, I need to make some changes here, and maybe I need to add in some links that are going to direct people along. Maybe the content on my page isn't as good as it should be. So to figure out exactly where to go and look, that's where this behavior flow page comes in. Over here on the left, we have the landing page. This is where traffic enters our website. Now, obviously on this website, my IKEA page is my most heavily entered page. I do have a very significant amount of drop-offs from that page, 92.3%. But you can see that's actually pretty accurate to my click-through rate that I calculated. If you look at my through traffic number here, 7.72%, very, very similar and close to my click-through rate of 7.89% here. So I'm fine with traffic dropping off once it reaches my product page, because some of that traffic is making it through to my advertisement. However, what I don't want to see a lot of is traffic entering in on other pages of my site and never reaching a product page. So here I have my fill power page, and I have about an 86% drop-off rate, whereas 14% of the traffic is continuing on through to another page. For my home page, notice there's no page name here. This is actually the home page of my website. I've had 7.6 thousand land through there, and about 15% continue on, and about 85% have dropped off. So what I'm interested in finding out on this page is, where is my traffic leaving my website? And is there anything that I can do to not necessarily stop all of it, because that's pretty much impossible to do, but you want to stop as much of it as you possibly can. You want to keep them on your site and try to get them over to your product pages before they drop off. So for my drop-off traffic, my home page, about 85%. My fill power page, 86%. So I can determine my most popular pages and also the ones that are losing the most traffic. Shifting down feathers, had a better rate here, 79.5. So these are just my top pages. I can continue on and look at even more pages of my site. The other thing, though, beyond figuring out the pages that maybe aren't performing as good as they should be, or are losing some of that traffic, is also look at the flow of the traffic through the entire website here. For example, I have 7.6 thousand people that landed on the home page of this website. However, over here it's showing 8,000. So where is this extra traffic coming from? Some of it comes from other pages of my site, and you can see that traffic being led along here. So anytime you have one of these lines coming off, that's traffic leaving that page and ending up on one of these other pages of your site. So here, when they're on my home page, I can not only figure out the percentage that is dropping off of my site from there, but the people that are going through, I can figure out where they are going and what path are they taking when they proceed through those various pages. So this takes me to my next level here. I can see my sizes page, for example. I have a super low drop-off rate on that page. So maybe I could take note of that as well. Sizes only had a 21.7%. So why is this page significantly lower than some of the others? Can I take what's working on that one page and apply it to some of these other pages and drastically reduce some of these other drop-off rates? I can also then look at whether that traffic is navigating through my site to the different areas, and finally whether they're reaching my brand pages as a result. You can go deeper into these. You can view more pages down at the bottoms. You can even continue stepping over to figure out how deep people are actually reaching into your website. But the ultimate goal here is to figure out what pages are losing traffic that shouldn't be losing pages. The pages that need to be instead sending that traffic over to other product pages of my website. So now I want to go on to talk about new Amazon products. You obviously have all the existing products that are on your site. And we've talked about how to figure out whether or not those products are still viable, whether they are attracting traffic and converting that traffic into sales, and also how to diagnose various issues relating to that. So beyond that, you have new products that you're not already covering on your website. And I consider this to be a vital part of the overhaul research, especially if it has been a while since you originally created the site, such as my site, where it's been a couple of years since I first did this. And ultimately, over the last year, I've lost a lot of the traffic. Those 12,000 people that came in through my IKEA page, I ultimately only converted a couple of those people into Amazon sales. But that could have been, it could have been 20, 30, 40, 50 sales potentially that I could have landed off of all those people just on that one particular page. Since I know that the Miser Rondown Comforter is not currently available, is there something else out there that I might be able to promote instead and still include it on that same page of my website at that? So I want to talk about exploring the Amazon website for just a moment to try to find some new products that you can promote. Now, I've talked about finding new products tons of times in probably every Amazon course I've ever put together. So a lot of this stuff won't be super new or fresh to you, So I'm instead going to be focusing more on what really applies to the whole overhaul process. But still, by all means, take advantage of existing strategies and tactics that you may already have for finding products to promote in your particular niche. You can use Google, you can use the manufacturer websites. For example, I could go to the IKEA website and try to find out, okay, what is going on with their down comforters? What's going on with the particular model that I'm promoting? What other ones might they have available? Have some of them been discontinued perhaps? Is that why that one is no longer available for me to be promoting? Things of that nature. So I'm really talking about kind of beyond all that normal research that you may already be aware of is more or less what we're going to be focusing on here. So to start, I want to talk about the similar products. What I mean by a similar product is on the Amazon website, when you go and view one of the products that you're promoting, you have all of these other recommended or similar products that Amazon kind of promotes alongside of it. There can be all kinds of different headers that go along with these. Customers who viewed this item also viewed. It could be customers who viewed this item also bought, or who bought this item also bought. It can also be something like, what other items do customers buy after viewing this item? Essentially, though, all of these different areas, they're coming off of real-time Amazon stats. So if something is showing up in one of these lists, it should be available in something that's currently being sold, that's popular in the marketplace one way or another, because it wouldn't show up on here if it simply wasn't active, especially when it's talking about other products that have been purchased. Now this one's just talking about other products that have been viewed, but it can still be useful information for me, especially when I look at the names here. IKEA Comforter Satvedel, I'm probably butchering that, Hansbar, Straw, there's a number, Bleckvid, I think these are, IKEA is a Swedish company, I believe. So you have a number of different potentials here that I could explore, and maybe these are available to be sold. Maybe these have kind of replaced that one that I was previously promoting, right, and I'm currently still promoting. So I can go here and make some notes for my IKEA page. I'm just going to write down a number of these different types that are available. So all four of these, just from a very quick glance at the Amazon website, may potentially be products that I could replace on that IKEA page. But again, I would definitely want to take a deeper look into all of these, like I've done with this one, for example. Go and make sure that they are indeed available to be sold. And we can later even go beyond that and figure out whether there's keyword traffic and things of that nature available centered around these new product names. Now, scrolling through the rest of this page here to see what exactly was available as far as other listings of products. This is sponsored products. This is kind of the one area that I will typically avoid. Sometimes these can be on a third-party website. If you're seeing the prime checks, though, they may actually be on, these are actually on the Amazon website, though. I don't think they used to do those. This may even be something more recent that they have started. Look for, no matter what these listings are, again, top products that are being purchased or viewed. You can see here this one's showing frequently bought together. Customers who bought this item also bought. These two will commonly show more similar or accessory types of products, complementary kinds of products to the one that you're buying. Whereas the sponsored products, the customers who viewed this item also viewed, and the other one that I mentioned, what other items do customers buy after viewing this item? Those listings are definitely a lot more centered around your product and are more likely to contain the same kind of product, like what you're seeing here, where I have a down comforter and the products being listed are down comforters. So before you just go blindly selecting through these, definitely take notice of what you're looking at. For this product here, it might not be very helpful to browse through this list for me because I'm not seeing down comforters here. I'm seeing pillows and sheets and mattress pads and things of that nature. Now, in addition to all of these different listings of products, I also like to use the bestseller list. I've talked about bestseller lists many times before and how they can be useful to help you find top selling products. For this case, though, what you're really more interested in here is, again, finding the exact same type of product. By simply clicking on the bestseller link up at the top, you're going to get to a generalized category. I'm landing in the home and kitchen category here. Sometimes, though, there might be a more drilled down category that makes more sense for whatever product you're promoting. For example, I do have a bedding category here. This would certainly give me more relational results. I can go even a step further and look at the comforters and sets category. So I can see these actually are down comforters, many of them. So I could look into whether these might be good alternative products to promote or maybe just brand new products that I could feature on my website. So just as an example, I'm going to take a guess and say that's French and something like chez moi. I also have King Linen that I could take a look at. So I can find new brands for my particular site that I could maybe explore into putting these brands on there alongside of the brands that I am already covering. The same type of concept works simply for finding new products to add into. By drilling into the most specific category that you can find, though, you're more likely to find things that actually relate to the type of product that you're trying to promote here. Also take note of the other top listings: hot new releases, most wished for, gift ideas. There's even, let's see what's missing, movers and shakers is missing from this list. Sometimes In certain categories, you may not have all 4 of the additional listings. But these can be useful too to find things that aren't popular enough to be on the overall top list. But if it's, say, a brand new product, you might have it showing up in the most wished for or the gift ideas listings, while it may not actually be selling all that much yet, but it might have a lot of sales potential in it in the coming months. In addition to using the direct link to get to the bestseller category, though, one other thing that I can recommend to do that will sometimes help you to reach that more drilled down category, if you look at a product that you're already promoting that is still selling on the Amazon website, and you go down to the product details, you can sometimes find that it has a bestseller rank, and you're looking for a top 100 rank in a specific category, such as this one. So I can go directly from this page to essentially the page that I was just on before, except I didn't have to navigate my way to actually find that page. Sometimes there is a direct link for it in the product details. Now you can also do simple things that are fairly self-explanatory, like I could try to find IKEA down comforters by simply searching for them and possibly see if there is anything else that is here that I was not seeing. I see one right there. So I simply mark all of these additional products down for future research that I might want to do. I could even try to look for another occurrence of the product that I promote that is out of stock. What I mean by that is on the Amazon website, vendors can create their own listings. According to the vendor rules, when you want to sell a product, you should be listing it under an existing listing for that product. So for example, if I found a source, a wholesale source for these IKEA My comforters, and I wanted to then start selling it on Amazon as a vendor, I wouldn't actually create a brand new listing. I would list it under this particular listing. However, despite that rule, sometimes you do have multiple occurrences of the same product. So if the one you're promoting is no longer available or out of stock or there's some other issue with it, sometimes you can get lucky and find another one available. For this particular case, though, that was indeed the only listing for it. So it looks like My Saran, unfortunately, might be off the table. But it still looks like there could easily be 4, maybe even 5 other types of down comforters that are made by IKEA that I could possibly replace it with. But I can still take advantage of my current placement with that page and even with the keyword phrases that I'm targeting. For example, I have a lot of really good search rankings on the IKEA My Saran relational keyword phrases. However, I don't have to completely abandon that traffic because the product's not going to be available anymore. What I can do is simply modify the brand page or the product page on my website, and I can still talk about that old product. I can look up some information for it. If need be, I could maybe even try to contact IKEA and find out what's happened with the My Saran. Was it discontinued? When was it discontinued? Has it been replaced with a specific newer model, things of that nature. Provide all of this information on your website, and then you can still have all those old search rankings. I should still be able to rank for IKEA My Saran after I remove that product from my website. In addition to that, though, by taking that traffic and saying, okay, yeah, this product that you were looking for is not available, but they've replaced it with this other one, and here it is, I can convert that traffic then into sales on a different product. However, by adding in new products, I also am going to have a major potential to get much more rankings on a variety of different keywords. If my page already ranks really good for IKEA My Saran and phrases relating to IKEA down comforters, then chances are I should be able to feature all of these other IKEA down comforters on my site. And when people search for these phrases, Sotfadel, Hansbar, so on and so forth, I should be able to get some rankings on these keywords too. So I'm not only fixing a problem on my website with the product that I'm currently promoting no longer being available and that traffic ultimately getting wasted, but I'm trying to retain that traffic and add more to it while still fixing the problem of giving them a new product to buy that they're all going to be interested in, both the people that were searching for the other keyword phrase and also people that might be searching for the new keywords that I'll be able to target. So this whole approach has benefits and advantages from a wide variety of different angles. Now, I mentioned briefly before on one of these pages how it was showing a number of similar types of products that kind of go along with the product, but it's not a down comforter in my case. Some of the pages that I pulled up, of course, I think I removed that page, such as this one where I have sheets and pillows and bed skirts and bed frames and mattress pads and mattress protectors and so on and so forth. They're all relational products. Some of them might be considered to be a direct accessory product for something that I promote. For example, if there was a down comforter and maybe there was a duvet or something that was specifically sold for that exact down comforter, I might be tempted to try to include an ad for something like that on my site too. Now, the key thing to remember here, though, is to stick in line with what your niche is really about. With mine being about down comforters, I would not really want to be creating new pages on my site that are going to talk about products other than down comforters. So I wouldn't really want to make a page about pillows or mattress pads or sheets or things of that nature. That's going to dilute my down comforter centralized niche. However, what I can do is if you have a product that is dependent upon a product that you're promoting, if it's essentially an accessory for that product, you may be able to put it on the same page. Where if I could find an IKEA My Saran duvet, for example, that would go along with the comforter, then I could have the comforter promoted on that page, and then a little further down the page, I might be able to promote that highly relational product that is directly for the product that I am promoting. So there is a very close relation there with those products. There is a reason why somebody interested in your products might be interested in those other products too. It's not required to try to put that kind of stuff on your site, but if there is something that maybe you're seeing in the Amazon stats that you are selling, but you're not directly promoting, and it does go along with something that you are promoting, it could be a really good choice to actually add on to your site in those cases. But again, that's really only for special situations mostly. So now we've been discussing how we can examine the products on our site and expand from what we already have there, whether it is adding to our existing pages or creating brand new pages on our site. But ultimately, we haven't really talked about keyword or search engine potential at any point during today's class. This is still important. However, I put this later in the research process because your expansion should not be completely dependent upon the information that you find from your keyword research. If there is a really good reason to be making a certain change on your site, no amount of keyword data should sway that decision at all. For example, with my IKEA page, I already blatantly know what the issue is on that page. No amount of keyword traffic being shown on any kind of relating keyword phrase could change my mind about what needs to be done on that particular page. So just for example, let's say I go and look up all the other different kinds of IKEA down comforters, and maybe there is zero search engine traffic for all of the other models except for the one that I'm already promoting that is no longer available to promote. That would still not change my decision to make that change, simply because I know that there's no way to avoid that change because that product really does not appear like it's going to be coming back on Amazon anytime soon or maybe even ever. So with that said, I want to talk about doing this keyword research for some of the topics that you have already picked up. We're going to be doing some keyword exploration using things like Google Instant Search. And then we can also go and actually look up the traffic for the new product phrases or new potential long tail phrases that we might want to be utilizing on our website. This way, we at least get an idea of the potential keyword traffic that is out there for this expansion work that we are going to do. So what I want to do to start with here is on Google Instant Search, I'm curious about maybe different topics that I could try to discuss on various pages of my site. For example, let's say I was looking at the down comforter IKEA page, and maybe I decided that my content wasn't in-depth enough, and maybe I wanted to try to add more. But what if I didn't really know what else to talk about for it? A really easy way to figure out what people want to know about a topic is by simply typing in the beginning of that topic to start with. So I've typed in IKEA down comforter here. You can immediately see that there are a number of suggestions, reviews, warmth rating, and cover. Already right off the bat, two of those three are very obvious subtopics to me. I can have a subtopic about warmth rating where I talk all about what warmth rating is, how it applies to this product, and I could even have a section about covers. This may even be something that would lead me into promoting an accessory product, something like what I was describing to you not long ago. So I could have a subsection on my IKEA page talking about the covers, and then I could then promote one of those covers. I'd probably put that all the way down at the bottom of my page, most likely. Beyond that, though, you can get a lot more suggestions than just these first couple of things that pop up. You can look down at the bottom and find related searches. You could even begin typing in some of these searches and see what it shows you up above for the instant search. However, you can continue with your search up here and type in a space, and it'll give you a fourth suggestion. And then you can even continue on by adding additional letters onto your search, one at a time, to find different suggestions. Cleaning, duvets, the down alternative, IKEA baby down comforter. So just from a very quick glance, I can already identify from just typing in, what was that, 5 different letters to start with, I can identify a number of different subtopics that I could potentially be talking about on my website. So again, these subtopics, how you translate this into content on your site is actually pretty simple. I might just have a header right here that says warmth rate, like this one says downfill. And then I just have a couple of sentences or a couple of paragraphs of content that talk about the warmth rate, how it applies to this product, whatever it is that your subtopic is ultimately about. In addition to this tactic giving your readers really helpful information, you're also going to notice that it helps you with search engine rankings across the board. If you wanted a ranking on the phrase IKEA down comforter, then your best bet for achieving a ranking here would be to have content on your site that covers as many different subtopics about that subject as you possibly could. Now I can also see from searching this here that it's also revealing the IKEA website itself. I can go and look at the catalog here for their down comforters if I wanted to explore more about them and more about each of these individual products. This is something that I will certainly be doing before I try to put a complete game plan together for what I'm going to do with that IKEA page on my website, so I can learn a little more about those products, maybe even find out what happened to that other product that I was already promoting. Now, in addition to the long tail phrases, you also have the new product phrases. That would be these types of things, but translated into using the Google Keyword Planner. I don't think I have that opened in a tab yet here. So for example, I can take some of these additional words that I was finding for these other models of this product, and I can see whether there is some kind of search traffic out there for it. So I can see that there is some traffic showing up. The traffic does kind of seem to be rising over the course of the last year, so it is possible this could be maybe a more recent product addition to their line. I can sometimes also use this same type of a search here to find ideas for other keyword phrases where it can give me listings, but a lot of times I don't find, at least not within this particular niche, I don't find a lot of specific names being listed out for me. I do seem to have to discover a lot of these on my own. And there could definitely be a wide variety of different keywords that all essentially mean this same thing. I could add on the phrase comforter or down comforter to the end of it, and there's probably going to be a little bit of search traffic. So when you add all these different phrases together, then I might be looking at possibly a couple hundred monthly searchers on this particular phrase. So you simply want to make, a record of what kind of traffic you can find out there and what the actual search term is that they are using for the various traffic levels. That way, when you're talking about a product on your site, it might be best to phrase it in a particular way based on what the more popular keyword phrase is going to be. One of the things I kind of like about IKEA and the benefits that kind of come off of the search engine rankings for this. Let me do the previous search that I did before so I can show you what I'm talking about. On some of these product names, you have, I don't even know what to call them, accents. I only do English. I took French a couple of years back in high school. Beyond that, though, I'm horrible with foreign languages. However, I do know that for people in the USA, they don't have keyboards that are going to allow them to make these types of characters. When you have a company like this that is based in another country, and maybe it's more popular in that country than it is in the USA, a lot of your keyword traffic is going to be centered around this phrase, but with the accent characters in them. I do try to make a point, though, to have, when I put this phrase on my own website, I will put it on there with the accents in some cases, and then I will also put it on there without the accents in other cases. So I can show you what I mean by that with my Myceron example. With the Myceron, sometimes I have the accents, and other times I do not. These can sometimes be interpreted as two different keyword phrases in the Google search engine. However, they definitely know that they relate or maybe even mean the same thing. So I'll change it up and I'll put both of them on my site to make sure I'm targeting those different combinations, and especially to make sure that I'm going to be targeting the USA traffic that is out there. Now, just in case you're not familiar with these accents, or at least how to create them, you can sometimes just simply copy and paste these into your content. So for example, I copied it off of my page. I could copy it off of the Google website or off of the IKEA website and paste it into an article that I was writing. You also have, with Windows, a software called Character Map, which it's free. You can find it in your accessories, typically in your Windows Start menu. The Character Map can also allow you to create some of these types of things. So I at least wanted to point that out for future research that you may do. If you run upon companies or product names or things like that that are showing these accents, pause for a moment and do a little bit of research into them. There's a pretty good chance that there may be less competition on those phrases than there are on the average product phrase within your niche. For example, in this niche, other down comforter product phrases have much, much more competition on them. The Pacific Coast and the Penzon brand have a lot more competition on those keyword phrases, whereas a lot of people have avoided the IKEA ones simply because maybe they just don't think that the product's available in the USA, or that the search phrase is something that would be found by people in the USA. But I can tell you that they definitely do find this type of stuff, and you can get quite a lot of traffic from it if you can find the right keywords to go after. So what we want to do, as far as all of our keyword research is going to go for this portion, is to, number one, find the keyword traffic amounts for any new products that you are considering promoting on your site, like I have done for this particular one. But look up a number of different combinations of that keyword phrase to make sure you're covering all the different possibilities, so you can find what the most popular variation of that keyword is truly going to be. Then you also want to explore keyword traffic that is available for different topics and subtopics that you may be considering promoting. How I was going through before with Google Instant Search and typing in IKEA down comforter and getting it to make other suggestions for me, any of those subtopics that I came up with that I was considering including on my page, I can then go back into the keyword planner and see whether there's actually some kind of traffic behind it or not. So for example, IKEA down comforter warmth rate was one of the things. You can see that it's not getting a ton of traffic, but there is some kind of traffic showing up on it. So if you already have a page about that topic, and you can add in a couple of extra sentences and possibly get a ranking on this phrase right here, while that 10 monthly searches is not going to deliver a lot of traffic to you by any means, when you do this kind of thing over and over again and you're targeting potentially dozens of these different subtopics relating to your main keyword phrase on that page, all those different traffic numbers, all those different search rankings definitely add up and can deliver a decent amount of daily traffic to your site as a result. But not only that though, there may be other keyword phrases that I could rank for having to do with the warmth rate that are not this exact keyword phrase. Just the phrase down comforter warmth rate, for example, might have some interest in it. I'm probably getting a little too vague by wiping out down comforter entirely. I've been able to find a little bit of additional for that phrase, but like I mentioned when I started talking about the keyword traffic stuff, the level of the traffic here is not what's important. Simply being able to find any traffic for that phrase, I consider to be a plus. But whatever your primary keyword phrase is that you might be going for. So for example, if I'm going for IKEA down comforter, having all these different subtopics like warmth rate addressed on my page are going to make me much more likely to be able to rank for that primary phrase too. So your ultimate goal is to not only get the products and an indication of what keyword traffic might be available for them, but you also want to have a list of various subtopics that you could talk about on your site. Warmth rate, cover, things of that nature, and also what kind of keyword traffic you might have available for those subtopic phrases too. Overall, this will give you a pretty good picture once you've gone through all this research for the different product pages of your site. You should have a pretty good idea of what the potential is, whether or not it should be worthwhile to make changes to that page or not, and most importantly, it's going to give you some direction in the future with actually making those changes. So I wanted to take my particular situation here with this exact website, and in particular with my problem with this product, and not necessarily solve it, because I don't think that I can solve this problem. I do believe the My Saran has actually been discontinued. So it makes it pretty hard to solve it, pretty hard to find a source that I can promote as an affiliate for this product. However, just because that is the case with this product doesn't necessarily mean that it would be the same for all of them out there. There are a lot of products where it just might not be available or commonly sold on Amazon, but you could certainly find that product elsewhere that you could still promote as an affiliate. What I'm really talking about here is going beyond Amazon and whether it's worthwhile or justified for you to expand and promote products that are not on the Amazon website. So the first part about this that is the most important is determining whether expansion outside of Amazon is really justified or not. Ultimately, you don't want to expand outside of Amazon unless you just don't have any other options. With the case of the IKEA My Saran comforter, since I just cannot find that on Amazon and it hasn't been available there for between 8 and 13 months, if I could find that product anywhere else that I could promote as an affiliate, I would highly consider it, especially considering that's the most popular page on that entire website. However, if I can't find it, I may simply have to go for the best choice. I may have to replace it with some of those other IKEA comforters that I was looking at before. Or sometimes you may even have to completely remove it from your site. However, I still like to try to keep the content there and still try to convert existing search rankings to move that traffic along into being interested in a different product if it's at all possible. So I do try to avoid removing things from my website. But just like the out of stock or unavailable products on my site have caused me to need to look into a different alternative for the product that I promote. There are some other situations that, in my opinion, make it justifiable to expand outside of the Amazon network. High traffic pages is another one, which also kind of applies to my IKEA page. When you have a page that's really popular on your site and you just don't have anything good that you can promote to them there, it can be worthwhile to go outside of Amazon if you have no other options. It's better than having nothing to promote there at all. Other things like major keyword potential. For example, if I found that maybe there was major keyword potential for another type of IKEA down comforter, but it's not available on the Amazon website, but if I could find it somewhere else, that would be a really good indication to me that it would be worthwhile to expand. If I look at the actual keyword traffic that I have had on this particular site, you can see what my different phrases are, and that some of these phrases do directly relate to a specific kind of product, like my Saran, for example. These particular keyword phrases, I either need to provide them with that exact product or some kind of good alternative to it. So I obviously do not want to completely wipe out that possibility one way or another. You could also have keyword potential for the new products that you're considering to promote, though. The type of pages that I make, at least on this website, and I've done this on quite a few of my Amazon sites before as well, I'm really fond of this particular approach, which is the brand approach instead of the product approach. This is favorable for me because it offers longevity. When I reach a situation like what I'm in now, where a product that used to be performing awesome for me is no longer performing at all for me, but I still have the page, and the page is still getting a lot of traffic, I don't want to have to start over from scratch. So my brand page gives me the potential to make modifications to it as needed for all eternity, essentially. As long as IKEA is always making some kind of a down comforter, this page will always be a viable page that I should be able to profit off of. However, if I had made a page that didn't just cover IKEA down comforters and it was just about the IKEA My Saran, that page would not be very useful anymore. It would be really hard to revive that page and change it, redirect that to a different product if the whole page is about that product. However, with my page being about IKEA, makes it much easier to then expand into that brand. So I can certainly consider a little more flexibility with my expansion. I don't necessarily have to just pick Amazon products. If this brand is no longer a good brand to promote on Amazon, if I can find it elsewhere, that's certainly a good reason to move away from the Amazon network. Not entirely, but to supplement your ads with ads from other networks too. Now, one last thing to consider before you actually decide to promote something from a network other than Amazon is the monthly payout amount. Most sites will have a minimum amount that you have to make in any given month or by the end of a particular month pay period for you to then get paid your earnings from that month. Not to say that they take any earnings from you, they'll just roll those earnings over to another month if you don't make enough. But if you use Amazon fairly heavily, say you have a number of different Amazon sites, and then you just run into one problem on one site where you have a product such as this Myceron comforter here, where you need to replace it with something else. If you pick a different network, you have to consider how long it's going to take you to make enough money to actually get paid. Would you see a check every month from it, from just promoting whatever it is you're considering promoting? Would it be 6 months? Would it be a year before you saw a check off of it? Just make sure to consider that kind of thing because it can affect at least short-term monthly income that way. Now, finally, I want to talk about a specific affiliate network that you could use. This won't be necessarily something that'll work for all possible niches that are out there or all types of products that you may be missing. But this is Commission Junction. It's cj.com, just in case you are not familiar with it. cj.com is another affiliate network just like Amazon. It's actually pretty similar in regards to you have a bunch of different vendors that all come together on one network and they list all their products, and then advertisers can choose from all of those different products and vendors instead of just having to limit yourself to a specific company. There are certainly some company or brand websites out there that might run their own affiliate program where you could sign up directly through them, but again, that limits the amount of products that you might be able to promote. If you could only find your product on some small or some kind of network that's only for a specific company, you might have to do that to get the product that you're after. But I recommend cj.com because chances are you could use this for a variety of different sites in a number of different niches. And going back to the monthly payout thing, it makes a lot more sense this way to consolidate your ads on a lower number of networks and to be able to use that network more often, at least on each of your different websites. So cj.com simply offers a wide variety of different vendors and a wide variety of different products. While there is a lot here, I don't necessarily consider it to have more than Amazon. That's why I prefer Amazon over cj.com. But it is good to use as kind of a backup every now and again. It can also be useful if there's something other than a physical product that you wanted to try to sell. There are plenty of physical products available for sale on cj.com, but you can also refer sales on services instead of just physical products. Just as a wild example, right here on the homepage, you can see you can actually promote web hosting and earn a commission when you get people to sign up for a web hosting account. That's certainly not a physical product that somebody would buy and have shipped to their door, but it is still on the CJ network. Now, as far as finding stuff on the CJ network, it can be a little more complicated or difficult than just simply going to Amazon and searching for the product that you're after. There are a couple of different places. Once you have a CJ account and you're logged into your account, up at the top you have advertisers and you also have links. That are the two main areas that you would want to focus on. For advertiser, you're going to be finding things like, for example, if I wanted to promote one-on-one web hosting, right here, this would help me to find that particular vendor. But it's not going to do me any good to type in a name of a product there. I could type in IKEA here, but unless IKEA is specifically signed up as a vendor for CJ.com, then it's not going to be found in that particular list either. Another thing that you could do is to try a keyword phrase instead. I could try searching the keyword phrase down comforter. Of course, I have to start over after it logged me out. So when I search down comforter as a keyword, it's pointing me to vendors that have listed that as a keyword or maybe have some kind of product listed that fits that. However, it's not a surefire bet that you're going to find what you're actually looking for when you just do a plain keyword search here. From my search, though, one of the two results that has popped up is Pacific Coast Feather Company. Pacific Coast is actually one of the brands that I cover on my website. So if nothing else, I could maybe explore this a little bit more and find out what Pacific Coast has to offer on CJ.com, how this varies from what is available on the Amazon website, and in particular, pay attention to the price and the commission rate that are available. If you can promote a product off of CJ.com for a cheaper price than the exact same product on Amazon and still make a higher commission from using CJ.com, then it could certainly be worthwhile. There are products that offer a higher commission on CJ.com. I've also seen some that offer much lower commissions that you can find on Amazon. So it'll just kind of depend from one vendor to the next. But just as an example, Pacific Coast is offering 8.25% as a commission rate. That's actually pretty good. You have to have a really high Amazon monthly volume to even get close to that kind of a commission rate. So I could consider potentially switching ads on my Pacific Coast page from Amazon ads to these, as long as I can still promote the products that I am after, and as long as I don't have to force people to pay more money for it. I don't like removing an Amazon ad for a cheaper price and replacing it with a more expensive thing for the exact same product just to try to make a higher commission myself. I'm more interested in giving my readers the best possible deal that I can find, and I'll take whatever commission comes as a result of that, because it's going to result in more sales when you're giving them the better deal. So you'll be better off in the long run by giving your people the best price and not solely focusing on what's going to make you the most money. But it's still a good thing to take a note of. Now, in addition to the advertisers, the other part was links that you can search for. Under links, you have this link tab where you can search advertisers and keywords just like I was doing before, but then you also have this product tab. For the case of Amazon affiliates, I think the product tab is going to be the most useful for you. So I'd recommend flipping over there. Make sure you don't have my advertisers only checked though, or else it's only going to search within the advertisers you have been approved for. That's the other main difference between CJ.com and Amazon. For every new vendor that you want to promote on CJ.com, you have to get specific approval from that vendor. And they're usually going to want to see your website that you're going to want to promote with too. So you would need a high quality website for them to be able to accept you into something like this. When you're searching for an individual product, you can again search by advertiser. I could try to search IKEA here. It doesn't appear as though there is anything. I could just search for keywords, down comforter or down comforters, and see what was coming up. Now there's obviously a decent amount of down comforters available. I see Staples. I don't know why Staples is, okay, maybe that's a book. I was going to say, why does Staples sell a down comforter? They have brands like Quill. I see some being sold from Bed Bath & Beyond, VCNY. So I would maybe have the potential to expand into other brands using CJ.com if I wanted to, but I would want to, again, have a really good reason to do something like that. I would want to see that some of these brand names related to down comforters, that there's a lot of keyword traffic available for them, for example, or else it just simply wouldn't be worthwhile to expand into this additional network. You can also sometimes find it through the SKU that you have for a product. Not all products you're going to be able to find this information for. I actually don't think, I'm pretty sure I've looked for this before. I don't believe I've ever been able to actually find one. Most of these say they're missing it. That one looks like it's for a different product. I've never been able to find it for this particular product, but a lot of products you can find this by simply searching for it, and then you can come back over into CJ.com and punch it in right here, and it'll tell you whether that exact product is actually being sold on here or not. Sometimes that can be the easiest way to find a very specific thing that you are after. Now, unfortunately, my Myceron comforters are not available on CJ.com to promote. So this is not going to be a good alternative for me to use for this particular site, even though I had really hoped that something might be available there. I can still continue to search elsewhere to see if I can find the Myceron available that I can promote as an affiliate somewhere. Or if it has indeed been discontinued, then I will simply adjust the content and the ads on my site appropriately to reflect that, to try to then send sales along to a different product instead. So now to get prepared for the next class in this series, you really just need to go through all the research work that I have been talking to you about this evening. First, check the viability of your existing products and the content that you have on your site, whether it's high quality, in-depth content or not. Find out if you need to be replacing any products, find out if any content needs to be redone or replaced. You can then explore for the overhaul potential for both existing and new products for your niche. The existing products, you're looking for the potential for new or improved search rankings by expanding your content. So I could go and look at my keyword phrases and also my landing pages for the SEO information and try to actually figure out where I'm ranking in terms of what position. Is there room for improvement? This is something I talked to you guys about in the previous class quite a bit. The same thing applies to your product pages. Look at your average position that you're ranking for and see if there is indeed some kind of an improvement that could be made. For example, here, my Pacific Coast page, I average 24. My Pins on Primaloft page, I average 25. My Pins on page, I average 11. That's one spot away from jumping up into the top 10. Boosting these 3 pages up more could very easily allow them to get a lot more traffic to them than they're currently receiving. It might even help to put them more up in along the lines of where the IKEA page is. Now, this is a little odd. I'm not quite sure why Google isn't showing me all of my stats here. I actually just noticed that the graph was just cut off back from November. And this is where things that I may have done either here or over in the Webmaster Tools or Search Console relating to my site being hacked, I may have accidentally wiped out some stats. But this, at least if I look at like my overall traffic information, the site's certainly been going on even long before the beginning of that year did. So by looking into your existing products, exploring the potential for overhauling them, you can also do the same with new products. This could be completely new sections of your site. For example, how I found a couple of new brands that are really popular on Amazon right now that I'm not covering on my site. I may look into whether it is worthwhile to maybe add a couple new brand pages to my site to cover these types of things. Other new products that I'm going to be adding, like on the IKEA page, will go on the existing pages of my website. So it's really just going to kind of be dependent upon what your site is about and what it is that you are thinking about adding on to it. And then finally, you want to make sure that all of your major traffic is actually monetized. How I walked you through being able to follow your traffic through your website, the actual pages that they visit and things of that nature, the path that they take to get from one page to the next. You want to make sure that you're not losing major amounts of traffic there that's not successfully reaching some kind of a product page or advertisement on your website that gives you the potential to monetize that traffic. These 3 different areas are the most important, having to do with your product pages, and going through them along with how I have been showing you guys my own research for my website this evening. You want to complete all of this for the product pages and the products that you are promoting on your site as well. If you're using a couple of different sites to explore the possibility of an overhaul right now. How in the previous classes I mentioned picking maybe 1 to 3 sites and using them for your research. You would still want to be using those 1 to 3 sites for this part of the research, and it will be in the next class finally that we're going to then step back and look at all of our research and say, okay, what's the best site that we can possibly use, and then how do we proceed with performing this overhaul? That's an excellent question, Tina. Tina is asking, related to links and improving click-through/conversions. She's redoing a site of hers and has an add to cart button on her site. She wants to know, when do I use add to cart on a site, and do I feel it is better or worse? The add to cart, where, for example, with my plugin Extend-Azon or even Product Style can do this, where you have a little sidebar shopping cart that people can add multiple products to before they then decide to proceed on to Amazon to check out. Or there's even more of a direct add to cart link where they click on it and it just goes straight to Amazon saying, do you want to add this product to your shopping cart? That approach, the shopping cart system, can help you to get a longer cookie lifespan, but it also has its drawbacks in that it does seem to have lower conversion rates. However, it does seem to be heavily dependent on what you're actually trying to promote. For example, on my Down Comforter site, I'm only promoting down comforters on the site. It's only a couple of different models from a couple of different brands that I have on there. And so I don't really expect anybody to want to buy more than one thing off of my website, especially not at any point in time, like in one sitting. I think that's really the biggest part about it is, would somebody want to buy more than one thing off of your website in any one visit? Do your products go together, or are they all the same type of product and they're kind of standalone like my down comforters would be? So for my down comforters site, there would not be really any kind of a benefit to using the add to cart system other than maybe trying to get the extended cookie lifespan. But I don't use that just to try to get the extended cookie. I need a good reason other than that to utilize the shopping cart system. Now, as a comparison, to give you, say, an opposite example, if I had a site about building your own computer, maybe building your own gaming computer or something like that, because that site would be targeting a number of different kinds of products, and I would ultimately expect for somebody to buy numerous of those things all in one fell swoop, it would be a much better selection to use a shopping cart system with one of those types of websites. So for example, I might have a section on cases for the computers, another section on memory, some on hard drives, video cards, fans, all the different components that go to a computer. But ultimately, the goal of a website like that would probably be to get somebody to buy all the different parts that they need to build a complete computer. So having that shopping cart to allow them to put all of those different products together in one place before then leaving your website is a much better type of a situation where that shopping cart system becomes beneficial. So that's the biggest thing that I would, if it is okay, if it is the add to cart on Amazon itself and not on the site, works. Yeah, kind of like Easy Azon. My plugins can do that method too. It calls it the direct shopping cart link, where you're not using the on-site shopping cart. I have personally not found a lot of benefits to using that particular type of link. Um, the extended cookie lifespan is really about it as far as positives or benefits that you're getting for trying to use that particular tactic. But then you have a negative side that you have to overcome as a result. And I just kind of feel like they essentially cancel each other out. So I'm not a big fan of the direct add to cart links. I would recommend, if your site has products where you might want somebody to buy more than one of those products, two different types of products in one transaction, basically, because those products might go together, then I would use the on-site shopping cart. Otherwise, I'd probably just recommend sticking with the standard Amazon affiliate links. You are quite welcome, Tina. Glad that was helpful for you. Jacob is asking, are there other tools we can use to check the level of Google penalty on a site besides the Google search engine? I'm not familiar with any off the top of my head. I mainly focus on the Google Search Console, what used to be called Webmaster Tools. Something I covered, pretty heavily in the previous class, where they will notify you as to what the issues are with your site in a large majority of cases. The only time that they may not is if maybe they don't see any fix to your solution. For example, if you just put a whole bunch of junk automated content up on a website and it was nothing but that, there may be no kind of notifications. You may get something like a thin affiliate notice, but you may not. However, certain aspects like that should be pretty apparent. You should know whether you've maybe taken shortcuts or not with certain areas of your site. So in general, I do feel like the Google Search Console is pretty helpful and straightforward as far as letting you know where the penalties may exist. If you do find, though, that as far as you believe you've created a good website, let's say you wrote your own unique content for the entire website, and your Google love checks are failing all over the place, you can't even find your site, going through the top 10 pages worth of rankings, even when you search for, say, the exact title of every page throughout your site. I really would focus more on the content then of a website, would be the most likely place. Look and see if maybe you're overusing keyword phrases is one of the most common things that I see out there, where somebody's talking about a product, say a down comforter, and that phrase, that word, whatever the product is, or whatever the target keyword phrase is, it simply gets repeated over and over and over again for a lack of a better word, or because you don't want to write a sentence that, may not make sense to somebody. For example, you just say down comforters are this, blah, 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 down comforters are that. If you use a keyword phrase too frequently throughout a page, throughout the content, you can a lot of times be penalized for that, and they may not notify you about those particular things. You can use keyword density checkers for things like that. I recommended one in the previous class as well, the SEO tools keyword density checker. If you're seeing keyword densities of like 5% and higher for your target keyword phrase, you may want to go through and wipe out some of the instances of it, replace it with vague words, things like pronouns, and you can just simply refer to it as like it or them or whatever the case may be, depending on what the product is. Anything to remove instances of your keyword phrases to bring your site under an acceptable level. I'll try to just put my target keyword phrase maybe a couple of times throughout a given page. Alan, that's a good question, even though it is a little off the path of this class. You were asking about my book, Long-Term Success Building WordPress Websites for the Amazon Affiliate Program. That course is the course that I created for the original creation of downcomforterguide.com. So in a lot of ways, that is a perfect course for building the Amazon sites, especially something leading up into this course, because you can even see how things started or why things were made the way they were originally from that course. So in that regard, I do find that book to still be helpful. There may possibly be a couple of random things that have changed since that book was originally created. For example, WordPress has certainly been updated a number of times since then. It still works the same, but I believe it's had a fairly decent visual change since then. They've kind of gone more with a darker theme than they used to have. Some other websites, Facebook changes things pretty frequently. Google Webmaster Tools, for example, that I'll talk about in that particular book quite a lot, has been renamed and called Google Search Console now, even though it's still essentially the same thing. So there are a couple of, random things like that where a company that provides some kind of service that I recommend for people to use alongside with the site building tactics, where they may have made some changes and there may be some minor differences there. But for the most part, the entire strategy that I lay out in that original series is still very, very valid. The sites that are built with that course, even sites that were built years ago, still maintain their good search rankings. As you can see, the Down Comforter site, up until it had the hacking issues, was getting quite a bit of traffic to it. So yeah, I definitely still consider that to be a good course to use. The video portion of that course. I'm not 100% sure. You should have that. Um, I provided the digital version essentially of that hard copy book, and also the video lessons for that course. I called that the Azon Home Study course, is what was provided to you guys for. I'm pretty sure anyone that is in this series should have the Azon Home Study course. If for some reason you don't, if you want to have access to the videos or the ebooks from that series, if you send a message to ryanstevensonplugins.com/support and say you're in Azon Overhaul, but you don't have or you can't find access to the Azon Home Study course, they'll get your login information to you. Because those videos go along with that book. The book can still be used standalone, but I personally find it to be more useful with the videos and stuff to go with it. Now, as far as a suggested set of courses or a workflow, like do this first and do this second, like what you're asking, the Azon Home Study course is a good first course to use. You could alternatively use my Azon 30-day challenge course as a first course, to where you could create a site based off of that series and then revisit that website down the road with the knowledge from Azon Overhaul. So a lot of my other courses besides this one that are specifically about building Amazon sites are more of the entry-level course, whereas then Azon Overhaul now is essentially the long-term follow-up maintenance and upkeep type of training for really any of my previous courses. Okay, sorry, I didn't even realize that was Tina before. Sorry, I called you Alan. um, yeah, since you have all those courses and you were wondering about, essentially what you're wondering is the book versus the Azon 30-day challenge, or the Azon Home Study course versus the 30-day challenge. The easiest difference that I could explain in those two courses is the technical requirements. The Azon Home Study course is more technical, whereas the 30-day challenge is designed to be more basic. It's not going to deal with as much of the HTML and CSS coding and things of that nature to accomplish a bit of a design on the website. It's the 30-day challenge is less focused on the design, whereas the home study course is more focused on the design and the technical stuff that goes behind that. As far as the building of those sites, though, while they use a slightly different technique in those two courses, either one can be used. You could even mix and match the site building techniques from those two courses ultimately. If you've never built a site before and HTML and CSS coding and stuff like that might be a little confusing, then the 30-day challenge is a great first starting point for a first website to make. And then I think the home study course makes for a good second site where you're looking to do something at least a little bit more challenging. Well, that's that's a good point, Tina. Tina's asking about the design of a site. Does it really matter in the long run? Um, when it comes to search engine rankings, I often find that the more plain a site is, the uglier it is, the better it will often rank. As horrible as that seems, simply because those sites perform better. When you don't load a site up with all kinds of different graphics and flashy designs and stuff like that, your site will load a lot quicker, and Google will actually give a faster loading site a better ranking. So in that regard, an overly flashy design can actually drag down search rankings. I used to be pretty picky about how my sites would look and going through and nitpicking, every minor little detail that was in it. And I spent years doing that kind of stuff and really never found much of a benefit to do it. I do try to make my sites look neat and clean and not ugly, but I also try to do that with a minimal amount of work. Yeah, like Down Comforter, the Down Comforter guide site. It's pretty plain, straightforward, um, but it's also kind of neat and professional looking in another way. Like the homepage, for example, with the basic little design here. I'm still going all white. I still don't have any major images. There's not a large header image that has to load. There's no background images. It's all plain white with text overlaid on it. So it's fairly basic in terms of the flashiness of it, of the actual download size of, if you tried to download this entire web page, including the content, the HTML from it, all the images and everything, essentially everything that Google's gonna, or that a website visitor is gonna have to load up on their computer before they can see the page, you just simply want less of all that. The least amount you can have while still making your site look decent. That's kind of the range that I'm looking for, the level I'm looking to achieve. So I do want it to be simple, but I do try to maintain some kind of a neat, clean, professional looking appearance to it as well. Yeah, things like optimizing your images can certainly help, reducing the file size of anything that has to be loaded up. Certainly, any amount of information that you can prevent from having to be loaded will definitely benefit the speed and can benefit the search rankings of a site as a result.